Hi there, and thanks for tuning in again to this week's edition of your Wheel and Anchor weekly newsletter. This week I'm coming to you from the spectacular city of Valletta, Malta, which you can see in the background behind me. It's the last leg of my European journey. I've been on the road for almost 3 months now, kind of looking forward to getting back to Canada, but I've enjoyed my time here in Malta, where I've been researching our program for our newest LiveAway, which will be unveiled here. It's going to happen at the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023. If you haven't been to Malta, if you don't know that much about Malta, it's worth taking a look into. There's plenty to do. The weather, of course, is super mild. Here it is the end of November. The sun is shining, and it's a great place to be at this time of the year, or even in the winter months. So stay tuned for that. I wanted to address a few of the tough questions that have come in from members over the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of changes happening in the world and here at Wheel and Anchor, and so I wanted to address some of those. First of all, our member Amy from Montreal was asking about our take on the travel situation, given all of the news reports coming out of Europe about the dramatic rise in COVID cases. Listen, this is something that's of concern to us, particularly as travelers. We've been looking forward so much to traveling, and I think we shouldn't stop looking forward. I personally am optimistic that we will still be able to travel, and I think an important point to keep in mind is that Europe is a big place. It's a big continent. There's lots happening here, and the situation is very different from one country to the next. And so a lot of the challenges here have been centered around the central part of Europe. Austria, Germany, the Netherlands have seen a sharp rise in cases. But other countries, such as the ones where we're headed, like Portugal and Spain, so far have been spared the worst. Now, that's not to say that they too couldn't anticipate some rise in cases. I think that's somewhat inevitable. But by this time now, almost 2 years into the pandemic, countries are better prepared, I think, to manage it. Of course, there's always the potential for dramatic measures, as we've seen in places like Austria. But I feel quite confident still about our upcoming trips to the Madeira, to Cyprus, and to Tuscany. And at the same time, I don't have a crystal ball, so we'll just have to see what happens. We're obviously going to take our members' interest into account. But at the same time, again, I think it's important that we differentiate between what's happening in different parts of Europe and different parts of the world. And on that note, I'm going to be giving our last webinar of the year on December the 16th, where we're going to be doing a travel outlook that's going to take a look at what the situation is in different parts of the world, what I, and more importantly, what other experts around the world are saying about what we can expect in 2022, and some insight as it relates to some of our trips. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be our, as I say, end of year webinar on December the 16th. And Amy, thank you for raising that question. I'm sure it's one that's in a lot of people's minds. Then we had Darren from Calgary, who's a new member, who asked about, he just joined us a few weeks ago, and he said, I've seen there's a lot of changes on your trips, like your LiveAways. Is this a common occurrence? And again, I think this is a question as well that some people have raised, particularly those who are interested in joining us on our LiveAways. We have made changes to both the program in Madeira and Cyprus. And in short, I'll give you my explanation for that. First and foremost, my commitment to our members inside of our trips is to delivering a great hospitality experience. When we are away, we want to have great accommodations. We want to have a great experience. And fun, and also live in comfort. And so when I finally made it out here to Europe over the last couple of months to check out the situation with the hotels that we had booked, all of these arrangements were done based on recommendations from people that we trust, or should be able to trust, like tourism boards and local partners, local agencies. And when I arrived to check things out myself, because that kind of is my policy, I like to see where we're going before we go there, I was a little dismayed at what I found in terms of what had been represented to me. So on that note, we did make some changes. but I think that they are in the best interest of our members. Listen, we're not going to necessarily come to these places often in our lives. It may be the only chance we have, and so therefore I think it's worth it to ensure that you have a comfortable stay and that we have a great time. And so that's why the changes were made, and I can't rule out that we'll make changes on future programs, but hopefully with our ability to travel a little bit more around the world now, we will avoid making those changes in future. Believe me, it's a lot of work for our team as well. We then had a question from Brad from Port Elgin, Ontario, who asked whether our prices were competitive with similar outings. Well, this is a good question, and one that's certainly been raised about what our pricing policy is. And of course, when you talk about competing prices, when you talk about the similarity of outings, first of all, I think that our trips are different in a whole bunch of different ways from other things that you might find if you walk into your local travel agency. And so this is always the challenge in the travel business, is comparing apples to apples. And so I have a firm commitment that we deliver value for the programs that we offer. We try to, we generally work in small groups. So our LiveAways, which consist of a larger community traveling to a destination, but we generally go out in groups of 8, 12, 14 people to do the sightseeing that you'll often see other companies, other groups doing in larger groups of 20 or 30 or 40. And that's certainly a huge differentiator for us. And of course, that means that, a similar trip with 10 people is obviously going to be a lot more costly than one with 40 people, but the experience is quite different. Also, we go and hand pick our hotels, and I think, as the case in point of Madeira and Cyprus have shown, we tend to favor, and our members tend to favor, smaller boutique properties that generally aren't on the radar screen of most agencies, because they tend to go with the large hotels that are booked through big tour operators and consolidators, and it's not really the experience that we have for our members. So if you take some of those factors into account and the service that we look to provide to all of our members, I think that you'll find that our prices very much are competitive for the kind of experience that you might be able to find elsewhere. And finally, one more question from Rosalind out of Almonte, Ontario. She asked how long I have been creating and guiding tours. It's a good question, and I have been in this industry now for over 30 years. I started almost right out of school. I, of course, as some of you will know, went to school in Austria for hospitality, and my first job in the industry was organizing ski trips for Canadians to Europe, as well as to parts of the US, back in the early 1990s. So yes, some 30 years ago. And ever since then, I've arranged all manner of trips from usually on behalf of other companies. So we put the trips together in the background. They were sold and marketed by other companies. So I have a little bit of experience in this business, and I have hosted trips through most of that period of time as well. I can remember some of my first experiences as a young 20-something, going with groups of people on bus tours around Europe, and certainly learning the ropes and learning a lot about the kind of experiences that people appreciate and the ones that are sort of less desirable. And that's largely, a lot of that experience is shaped into the kind of programs that we deliver for Wheel and Anchor. So if you're interested at all, a little plug here about my background, my take on hospitality as it relates to travel. Of course, you can always order a copy of my book, The Heart of Hospitality, which I wrote looking specifically at hospitality as it relates to travel in the context of Austria, where I went to school, and it's a place where a lot of people from the hospitality industry come from. So that's, as I say, what shapes my experience and the one that I want to deliver for our members. So enough about all that. I'm on my way back to Canada as of next week. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of our members over the next couple of weeks leading up to the holidays. In fact, if you are in Ottawa, in the Ottawa region, I've emailed several of our members out there. Next Tuesday, I will be having a little informal get-together. It'll be the first event that we've done in a long time at Wheel and Anchor. So come on out, have a drink, have a bite to eat with me in Ottawa this upcoming Tuesday, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to meet some of our members in the Greater Toronto area in the weeks that follow. Stay tuned for that. And as I say, one more time, our last webinar of the year, December the 16th, is our outlook on travel in 2022. Please do join us from that. And I'm going to dig out my warm winter clothes as I leave here, sunny Malta, and make my way back to Canada. In the meantime, take care. We'll see you again next week.